Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Syed FAROOQ Hasan is back with a new episode of Sky is the Limit. As you all know, I try and showcase all such individuals who have outperformed in their area of expertise. I try and bring out those people who have brought laurels for the country, who have overachieved, and who are a source of inspiration for others. Today I am sitting with a very, very distinguished individual. She has represented Pakistan in a lot of international competitions in bodybuilding. Yes, that's true. A very, very unique sport for females, but she has excelled at it and she's still continuing. So let's talk to Zaiena Haider. Assalamu alaikum, Zaiena.
Wa alaikum assalam.
What a pleasure to have you.
And it's an honor to be on your show.
It's difficult to get hold of you. I know you keep on shuttling between different countries, mostly based in Dubai, but you know, whenever you visit Islamabad, it's a pleasure to see you and to talk to you.
Thank you so much. We'll come across each other on the
trail and on the walking track. Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. So Zaiena, I was going down your profile, and you have a background in fashion, design, and technology, and you've studied from London. You've got a degree or education in fitness, nutrition, and currently you are a coach also. You've participated in swimming competition and other sports activities. So much on your profile, on your CV, it's difficult to actually place you somewhere. But first of all, I'd like to know, where did it all start? Where were you born? Tell us about your early childhood, your school days. How was it?
Well, considering I have a long-term memory, I try not to retain all the things from my former life. From my childhood, I vividly remember growing up without the concern or worry of cell phones, technology.
Yeah, we've all been through that.
Right. So growing up as a child, I enjoyed the fact that we grew up on the streets. We safely played on the streets of Islamabad, as opposed to today, in this day and age. So growing up as a kid, my mother always encouraged us to participate in arts and performance.
You're born in Islamabad?
I'm born in Islamabad, a private hospital.
Right.
And my mother always encouraged us to participate in swimming activities, extracurricular activities like ballet, Kathak, horse riding.
All extracurricular activities.
And I was particularly fond of swimming and horse riding.
Okay.
Now, horse riding was something I was extremely passionate about, and I think that horses are my spirit animal.
Okay.
So I connect with them on a very extreme level.
Okay. And you started off with horse riding right from childhood?
I did.
You did?
I was 2 or 3 years old.
Oh my God! Okay, that's pretty early in your life. So tell us about your schooling. Like, you went to school in Islamabad also?
I've spent my entire education, I've studied in all the schools in Islamabad.
Okay, okay.
And then I went to university in London, which was in 2005. So I studied in Islamabad, and then I studied in BNU in Lahore as well. So I did my foundation there. And then I applied to the London School of Fashion. So I did my undergrad BA honors in fashion technology from London.
Wow. Okay. So tell us more about your school days here in Islamabad. So were you like one of the naughty kids, or were you the studious type and the teacher's pet?
I was a very naughty kid. I was the center of attention. I was an extremely spoilt brat. And I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth.
Youngest in the house?
I'm the youngest in the
house.
Only
daughter?
Only daughter, extremely spoiled, and I get away with everything. As opposed to what my brothers always wanted.
And you played up to it?
I played up to it, up to this date. My father said that I should have studied to be a lawyer or a judge, because I'm so good at convincing and applying the skill of that power, that strength, and being vocal and being outspoken, and also convincing people.
Awesome. And so, were you good in your studies?
I was in some
top 3, top 10.
I wouldn't say I was a very studious child.
Okay.
I was better in extracurricular activities as opposed to curricular activities that required us to pursue a skill or a degree or a future in something.
Okay. Okay.
I may have been good in arts, in Urdu and in English literature. I'm not so sure about history and social studies until much later in my life that I got into it extensively, reading a lot and things like that, and spending a lot of time with my father as well. Education has been extremely emphasized in our family. My parents are both educationists. My mother has been an educator. She's been a teacher, a principal. She's done her major in English literature. She studied fine arts as well. So it was inevitable for us to get involved in any form of curriculum, whether it's locally in Pakistan or abroad.
Fair enough.
And I had the best schooling here. I had very strict teachers, very strict education system.
Yeah.
But I played as a cheerleader in my school as well. I did all kinds of sports activities.
All games.
All the games and relay race and all these things.
Athletics.
I loved doing athletics. So anything related to being active, and apparently I had abs as a child. That's what my mother told me, because we spent a lot of our summers in Europe. And I went to summer school in Europe as well. We did a lot of swimming there, and we'd come back very dark, and the elderly caretaker I had used to use a very unacceptably appropriate term nowadays, but in other words, I'd be as dark as a cup of Americano.
Okay, okay.
And she'd find it greatly offensive.
Okay, okay.
And so we had a very good childhood growing up.
Okay. And
amongst our cousins, my cousins that studied in Harvard, Yale, Stanford, all of my family members and my cousins all over the world.
All Ivy League.
All Ivy League, very, very, very studious, very educated. So we always had this edge over us. They had this edge over us, actually. I felt like I was the black sheep of the family. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I'm not serving enough, And now, as I get older,
they all look up to you.
I hope so.
Of course.
I'm full of more empathy and humility now, as opposed to my former years and how I was growing up as a teenager and in high school.
And those are basically carefree days. School days,
right.
You don't think that much. You're more into sports, activities, friends, social activities. So, who had the most influence on you while you were growing up? Was it any of your elder brothers, or your father, your mother, any other friend?
My thoughts.
Your thoughts?
My prayers to Allah. No, my father.
Your father. Okay. Okay.
I'm only joking. It was always and always has been my father. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I am today. I'm very, very extremely grateful to having a mother who's instilled courage, confidence, and all these curricular activities into us.
Yeah.
My father instilled that courage, that get rid of that superior complexity, Be outspoken, be vocal. Focus on being something that no one can reach up to. Be someone that people look up to and respect, but be noble. Fill your heart with empathy and humility, as I've emphasized on several times before. Be kind to everyone. Everyone is equal in relevance to any kind of stature or anything like that. We don't want to look at people who are poor and rich inequivalent in regards to giving them respect. We have to treat everyone the same.
Absolutely.
So this is something that he has emphasized on a lot as we were growing up. So we were always very conscious about these things.
Okay.
These were inhibited in us. These were cultivated in our brains and to our systems. Always treat people with respect and care and kindness, because they are the ones you're going to need at the end of the day, more over anybody else. They're the ones who are going to be by your side.
And you did your O-levels?
I did my O-levels, I did my A-levels in Islamabad.
Okay.
And then I applied for university. I wanted to go to the US, but my father didn't want me to travel far away. It's not such close proximity to take a flight and come every now and then. So I stuck to my guns and went to London.
Okay, okay. And then you did your degree?
I did my degree in London. I had a successful career. I launched my brand in Islamabad and internationally. It's sold in Bahrain, Qatar, Dubai, online.
Internationally?
I made pocket squares, I made scarves, digitally printed. I was very good at what I was doing.
And that was your own thought that you went into this?
Yeah, I mean, my mother's an artist, so I guess that's where I got I inherited the skill from. And I improved on the skill and I became better at what I was doing.
So whenever anyone is growing up, you have this dream or aim or goal to become someone.
Right.
Like, I remember in 80s, 90s, it used to be only 3 professions: doctor, engineer, or a chartered accountant for that matter. So what did you want to become when you grew up? What were your thoughts?
I guess I wanted to be an eschatarian or something relevant to sport.
Okay.
Maybe polo or just a jockey or something, but obviously I was too tall to be one. And then something related to sports and education. I used to like teaching my dolls. Okay. I used to spank them as well if they didn't do their homework in time.
Okay, your dolls. Okay.
My dolls. And I had a friend who studied at the American school. We grew up together, and we used to get the kids together, the poor kids in the community, and we used to get books and stationery for them, and we used to teach them.
Okay, great.
So education has always been in the forefront of my life and my livelihood, and it is something that I'm pertaining to now as well. Okay. In the present.
So, while I was going through your profile and now that I'm talking to you, nowhere did I find that during your childhood the sport of wrestling or bodybuilding inspired you. But it so happens that you've represented Pakistan internationally and you've gotten medals in this sport. How did this transformation happen and when did it happen?
I was encouraged to develop the skill of bodybuilding by just getting into resistance training. A friend of mine introduced me to the sport, and I was also going through a traumatic emotional setback because I had been through a rough marriage, which was owing to my own decisions. So once I withdrew from that, I decided that I need to do something that's going to give me the strength and confidence that people will eventually look up to me, and women will look up to me and ask me how to have that confidence, how to have that drive, that passion, that fire, that strength. But it comes from your mental strength. If you're mentally not strong, your body is going to follow and it's going to always remain weak. So if you do not have mental capabilities and you don't have confidence, you're always gonna feel like you're in the, you're back of the line. You're always gonna be hiding behind that insecurity.
So when you started it, that was a lean period of your life. You said you were emotionally not on the best of like spirits.
Right.
So how did you think that you could outperform in this?
By staying busy and getting so physically and mentally engrossed in the sport that whatever it entailed, I would take it to that extreme level. And that's exactly what I did. It scrutinizes you. It takes you to a very dark place, darker than anything that you've been to. That means that you have to disassociate yourself from the rest of the crowd, and that's what makes me stand apart from the crowd. That's what distinguishes me from the rest of the people. I can never sort of compare myself to a regular person because I know how hard it is mentally and physically to get to that extent,
It's sheer hard work.
You have to socially cut yourself off because it's very difficult to have a normal conversation with people nowadays without having to have several dishes on the table and a cup of tea.
That's a favorite activity.
However, if you don't build that strength and resilience and you sit amongst a crowd of people and you're not able to hold yourself back, then you're weak. Then you're just weak.
Okay, fair enough. So when did this start? When did you start training for this sport? Like while you were in London doing your degree, after your degree, what time period is this?
So when I was in London, I did some functional training, but nothing really close to bodybuilding. And when I came back, when my friend introduced me to the sport and I got into it, it's been 15 odd years now. So I started in Pakistan and then I applied for a job and went to Dubai and went through some hardships to get to where I am today.
Wow, awesome. You completed your degree in design and fashion?
Fashion design and technology.
Fashion design and
technology. I did my BA honors from London School of Fashion.
All right.
Same school as Jimmy Choo.
Wow, Jimmy Choo. I'm sure
and Alexander McQueen and Stella McCartney.
Everyone can relate to that.
I'm not name dropping at all.
I'm sure. So after doing that from such a prestigious school, did it occur to you that you should probably set up your own business or something in fashion designing?
Yes.
Especially when your mother also had the same lineage?
Right. So my mother was into fashion, arts, and so on and so forth. And I guess that's what made me feel like I need to follow her footsteps.
Okay.
And I created my own brand. I had an online portal as well. I sold my brand online through other different vendors internationally.
Okay.
I had a successful running business for a while. I sold it in Dubai as well, and in India, in Pakistan, in Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and London as well.
All GCC, okay.
And then, a few years later, someone and something killed that light inside me, you know. I had this drive and this passion, but then I felt like I was constantly belittled for excelling in the field itself. And I think the person that was involved in this emotion caused that drive to die.
Okay.
So I had to find something else to be
keep yourself engrossed.
To keep myself engrossed, and that is what turned into a career path.
Okay. Obviously, when you would have started bodybuilding, you wouldn't have thought about going or doing it professionally at an international level or representing Pakistan. You would have started off like normally all of us do. When was the turning point when you realized that okay, you're fit for a competition, and how did you enter your first competition?
By being too over friendly with people in the sport and being bullied to some extent and looked down upon. Like, what are you? You're just an average Joe. You're never going to make it to where we are. And that's what really brought about that fire, instigated that drive, that thrill, that passion, that need and want to do it. And that's something that my father has in him, and I think that's where I adapted it from.
Okay.
Never tell me I can't do something, because I will show you.
Okay.
And I will prove you wrong.
All right, that's a very important thing.
Exactly.
And that's what gives you the kick also.
Absolutely. And whether it's being a woman or a man, it
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You have to be the driver of your life. You got to decide what is it that you want to do. What are the goals that you've set for yourself? And you go in that direction. Don't let anything come in the way and stop you. Don't stumble upon anything. You set your mind to something and chase after it, and have that passion, that fire, that drive to do it. No matter what you do, you got to work like a crazy person to come to that extent and tell yourself that I did this. I did this on my own. I did this with the help of other people, but I did it. And here I am. And I want other people to look at me and say that, you know what, I can do this too.
And anyone and everyone can do it.
Anyone and everyone. There's no classification here.
Regardless of your weight, height,
nothing.
anything.
If you apply yourself to something, you got to work for it.
If you put your mind to it.
Yeah. Don't expect someone to come and spoon feed you. You got to work your way to get to where you want, and you have to be prepared for the deliverables as well.
Awesome.
You have to be prepared for the obstacles. Our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, went through many obstacles and many situations in his life before becoming a leader.
Yes.
And in order to be a leader, you have to have all those skills instilled in you. You have to have that courage, that passion, that drive, that love, that respect, that humility, all in one.
The patience. Yes,
patience.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't agree with me and my decisions and my career choices and everything that I do, because they know that they don't have the ability to come to that extent. So if they feel that they can't do something, they're going to want to bring you down with them.
That's the norm in some parts of the world.
Right. And I want to change that ideology.
That's an amazing feat. I wish you all the best, and that's amazing if you can do it. When was your first competition?
When was it? 2019.
2019?
Yeah, 2019.
Okay, and you just heard about it from someone and you applied?
Well, my best friend who lives in Dubai is East European. She's a top bodybuilder. She knew that I was going through a
rough patch?
A weird situation amongst others. They were kind of condescending and looking down at me and making me feel like I wasn't good enough, and I had this passion in me and I had to prove to them that I can do it, and she helped me do it.
Okay.
So I competed in Italy and I didn't have any top 3 placings. I placed 5th in that show, and I did a great job because I'm the only one from Pakistan with a Pakistani passport competing in the world, and I'm also serving a purpose for my countrymen. So a lot of females live in the UK and the US and other countries, and they say they're the only Pakistani IFBB pro athletes. I'm not an IFBB pro athlete, I'm a pro athlete because of my experiences and time I've spent in the sport.
Okay.
But they consider themselves the only Pakistani females. Now let's correct them. You don't live in Pakistan, you haven't grown up there. When you come and you serve your own people something, and you're born and bred here, and you hold a passport from here,
yes,
and you're accountable for being called a Pakistani.
Absolutely.
So let's get the facts straight.
I would agree with you. And where did you train for it? Like you trained in Dubai, in Pakistan, in Dubai?
No, in Dubai, yeah.
In Dubai.
And in Pakistan and Dubai.
And you got professional training in both the places?
I got professional training, and I work with an extremely well-known and well-renowned coach. His name is George Farah. He's one of the very famous coaches in the world. He's an MD as well. He's they're working on a Netflix show on him as well. And he's been not only a mentor, a coach, a father figure, a friend, and everything. So after my father, he's second to me.
You look up to him?
I look up to him in every aspect of the way.
Okay.
In every situation I've felt like I was about to break and crumble, he would pick me up, pick up my spirits.
You need someone like that.
You do.
Everyone does.
Everybody needs a coach.
Yes, absolutely. So this sport that you're doing, Zaiena, it involves or it encompasses a lot of physical power also, right? And in our society, usually it's the men who go into weightlifting and bodybuilding and wrestling and all. You know, you don't have those many females in that. You being the first Pakistani, I'm sure your friends and all, they look up to you, and you know, they must cherish you for the unique sport that you're doing. But the other part, the other part of the story is that, has it ever, on a lighter note, has it ever happened that any of your friends getting into a fight, a street fight or someone, and Zaiena, can you kindly come over and fix this person here? Have you ever gotten into a street fight or anything?
Everyone in the world across the borders in different countries always asks me to come and defend them.
Okay.
Okay.
And you oblige?
Well, I mean, I would have maybe 15, 20 years ago. And now anything I say is as sharp as a knife. So I think I'll cut them through my words.
You got them covered in both angles. Great. Zaiena, thank you. It's lovely talking to you. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back after the break, and we have a lot more. Welcome back to Sky's the Limit. This is FAROOQ HASAN, and I am talking to Zaiena Haider, a Pakistani, a proud Pakistani who has excelled in the sports of weightlifting, bodybuilding, and she's continuing with this sport. Very, very interesting and inspiring story. Zaiena, tell me, so this was your first competition that you mentioned, and after that you won some other medals also. One I think in Los Angeles and all. Tell us about those competitions also.
So I did a show in Spain, and then I competed in Romania, and then I competed in Portugal, and then I competed in the US. Well, these competitions held by the IFBB Federation and NPC they happen every so often. Every month or so, you'll find out that they've released a calendar. And according to the calendar, we prepare ourselves.
And you pick those competitions?
A good 7 to 8 months to a year of
preparation. You have to apply for them?
Right. You have to apply for them, and you also have to prepare for them.
Okay.
And if you're not even remotely ready, physically or mentally, forget about it. Game over.
And is there any category like heavyweight, middleweight, lightweight?
No, that's not bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So bodybuilding pertains to physical appearances.
Okay.
There's there's figure, there's bikini, there's wellness, there's bodybuilding, and I did figure.
Okay.
So that means that we need to have a, you know, a specifically sculpted
Muscular,
back, and the frame of the back has to be sculpted in a specific way. You have to have slightly striated glutes. Gluteus maximus and minimus muscles are the most important and the hardest muscles to shred.
Okay.
And otherwise, you know, it just depends on how your muscle matures, and that takes a period of time. It takes a couple of years or so to really mature the muscle, and then, you know, eventually you get better at the sport and you get better as a competitor. You become more confident. You become more confident. You instill all kinds of inhibitants that you were familiar with in the past couple of shows that you attended and you competed in, and you learn the techniques and the way you have to peak during the stage performance. So there's the week prior to you stepping on stage is the most crucial and most important part.
You have to be extra cautious.
You're extremely dehydrated, and then you have a carbohydrate loading period which fills out the muscle. So you're extremely depleted, you're dehydrated, you're mentally scrutinized, you're just in a really dark place, and then boom, everything changes.
So I'm going to come to that in a minute, but before that, how many medals till date have you?
So I've got several medals, but I got 2 first places in the US, and then I was meant to travel to Vegas from California to compete for my pro card, but I was just exhausted because I had traveled to Portugal amidst my preparation, and your body goes through such a catharsis. Your central nervous system is off the whack. You just don't know how to communicate with people. You're weak, you're hungry, you're thirsty, but I had a great outlook to the whole thing because I knew I'm closer to my target. And I felt great. I was very confident and happy. Then I went to the US from Portugal and I got 2 first places, and I feel great, and I think that's the end of my bodybuilding career.
Wow. And I'm sure you must have gotten a lot of media coverage also.
I did, but it's not something I was concerned about. My main prerogative to do this is to change the mindset of women and girls and boys in Pakistan.
And to prove that anything and everything is possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to
breaking the myths and taboos.
Absolutely, yes. And that's what I want to work on when I come back to Pakistan, is create an institute of mentorship and to help people rehabilitate in the sports facility and in the mental capacity as well.
So that brings me to my next question, which is that do you have any federation or sponsoring body in Pakistan who would sponsor people who would want to, or youngsters who would want to come into this field of bodybuilding or weightlifting?
It will take a while, but there has been a supportive body, but for boys.
Okay.
And not such a wide scale and
not very active.
No, I have a friend from Karachi, Irfan, who is sponsored by McDonald's. I'm not going to support McDonald's because of the recent activities happening in Gaza, so
okay.
That's not something I want to get into.
But you want to make some kind of an institute?
I do.
You plan on doing that?
Something that will help kids speak out and come out of that comfort zone, you know, be able to have a supportive system, a woman that can speak up for them. And I know it's going to entail a lot of danger and problems in the future. But if I'm not able to do something and die for a cause for my countrymen or for the kids in Gaza, which I'm planning to do as well, then what's the purpose of us being human beings and living in this world? For money? For power? And you know,
you have to have a purpose in life. That's
you have to have
important.
a purpose in life.
Zaiena, tell me, what is your normal diet? What I would want to get into that for a person to be as fit or as competent and professional as you are, what is the kind of diet do you take, and is it an expensive sport? Does it cost too much, or is it unaffordable for people with meager means?
Bodybuilding is one of the most expensive sports to get involved in every spectrum, because you need supplementation, you need gear, you need very expensive food, and the specifications are pertaining to very clean source of protein, clean source of carbohydrates and fats, and it can't just be any source of protein and carbohydrates. It has to be made in a certain way. It's always better to have wild caught fish, not farmed fish, and hormone free poultry because the hormones do affect your internal and external growth, you know, and you just encompass a very strange outlook. Your skin quality becomes very strange as well. These are things that I've learned over a period of time by studying the sport, nutrition, and also experimenting and, you know, engaging in conversations with other sportsmen and other bodybuilders that do the same thing. The diet, when it concerns the diet, it really depends. It changes on a weekly basis, moving up towards the show. So the last couple of weeks towards the show, the carbohydrates start to drop. I'm very carb adaptive, which means that I can tolerate higher carbohydrates as opposed to a lot of people who prefer eating fats. But that's also because they don't have a lot of knowledge about nutrition and food. They think that by starving themselves and eating, you know, smaller quantity of food and less carbohydrates will give them the results they're looking for.
Okay.
Ultimately, you have to be consistent. If you're not consistent and you are not disciplined, forget about your motivation and everything else. You will never get the results until and unless you are consistently following the same discipline as you would wake up in the morning, brush your teeth, make your bed. I should hope you make your bed and not wait for someone to do it. And I should hope that you brush your teeth and you're catering to your hygiene level as well. These are the most pertinent things that we engage in as human beings, other than having food in order to live. So you live to eat or you eat to live. These are very...
You have to make a choice.
Exactly. As a survival mode, human beings are supposed to hunt, chase, and find food for survival mode. We sit and have bhaje ke pie and things like that, and we're grossly obese and our stomachs are popping out, and then we're having green tea with ginger and honey because it's a digestive aid. वो से वो हमारा पेट कम हो जाएगा.
So, does what I hear from you is that it's not actually the quantity, it's the quality of food.
Absolutely.
That counts. So quantity, so most of people think that bodybuilders have to have a lot of food, the quantity wise. Is that correct?
Qualitative versus quantitative.
Yeah.
The thing is, in regards to quantity, well, you can't really keep your stomach full. You don't want to have a bubble gut. You got to keep your quantity specifically measured. We measure our food. I measure my food. I bring a scale with me even now. I have a scale in the kitchen, and I measure my keema, my roti, my rice, and everything.
Okay.
And then I come to Pakistan, I want to eat parathe, pakode, chai, roti, and all that stuff. And then I tell my coach, and he's like, no, go and have some more roti, then don't call me and complain that your weight has gone up.
Okay, you have to be conscious about that.
I make sure that I do my cardiovascular activities on a daily basis. Now, I don't do it for the purpose of weight loss. Cardiovascular exercises are for longevity and for the purpose of saving your organs. You know, your largest muscle in your body is your heart. And in order for it to function correctly, you need to be active. In fact, sedentary people who sit at the desk all day long put on the most amount of weight, and they're unhealthy. They have bad postures. They're always slouching forward. It's because they don't have good expenditure of energy. You need the basics. You don't have to, you know, like extenuously do exertive exercises to lose weight. You need to just be active. Even if you're fidgeting your hands and moving your head and moving your feet, you're going to burn more calories than you would otherwise.
Wow. This is something you can only understand if you study for it.
Absolutely. Intercellular, extracellular, neurologically, biomechanics, and all these things are correlative to how the outcome of your body and your mind come together.
Okay. Now another very important question that was in my mind. What is the drawback or fallback for a professionally competent bodybuilder once he or she stops doing that sport? You know, when it's time to retire, or when you think that you've had enough and it's enough. I can't continue with this routine of having this measured food, and I want to have my chocolates and I want to eat, and you know, enough. I don't want to do this sport. What is the fallback? How does your body react?
In a
is
bad
there
way.
any drawback?
Yeah, of course. You're going to conform to to whatever you're putting in your body. So if we start eating callously and we're not apprehensive about the way our appearance is, that's fine. But you have to inherently understand that in order to save yourself for a longevity purpose, and you want to be healthy and you want to be able to carry your own body as well as your groceries and luggage, and lug yourself from one spot to another, and also be an active parent for your children and for other kids around you, and as a role model, I need to be physically active. And in order to do that, I need to be mentally active. So my mental health comes first, and my physical health follows.
Okay.
But having said that, it does have a huge impact on you if you stop. You don't have to scale your food, but you have to have some form of a measurement scale. The human body is so clever. It knows, it works according to numbers. So those numbers have to be applied to the human body as it is to the human mind.
Fair enough.
Right?
So basically what I was asking was that, once you develop the toning and your body has all the muscular curves and all, and if you stop the sport, isn't it that it will have a negative, instead of going back to your old self, you might actually go worse?
Yeah.
Because you've developed your muscle and suddenly you stop.
You become softer.
Yes.
Your muscle starts hanging.
Drooping
your
and all.
Your skin gets looser.
Yeah.
But if you keep staying fit, because everyone can exercise and should exercise. I have friends that has a mother and she's 78 years old and she's still training and she's got muscle. So it really depends on what kind of activity you're doing, what kind of sport you're involved in, what kind of physical activity you are involved in, even if it's walking, carrying some weights, moving from one place to another, and you're eating a portion controlled diet or just normal food that you enjoy eating, you'll be fine. But regarding bodybuilders that stop, yes, your skin starts to sag, your muscle gets loose, but also if you're not like filled into your body.
So is there a therapy for that also, like your coaches advise you if you are on the declining end or as you age, how to control your diet so that your body remains normal?
Well, the best guidance I can give you in regards to that topic is simply stick to whole foods. Remove all the artifacts and artificial ingredients from your diet. You should never ever buy something that has a shelf life longer than 7 to 10 days. Anything that has ingredients more than 5 words that you can't articulate, you shouldn't even be having them. You don't know what's inside the box of palak that you're buying that's packed in a container. Why don't you just buy proper fresh palak or saag?
Fair enough.
So if you stick to whole foods and you can afford to have them, then just have basic whole foods and don't overdo or overindulge in food. The other thing is seed oils. So the problem is that we need to buy things that our household can afford. And what they do is they buy things that are affordable on the shelves, and they are sold dime a dozen and at a very low budget cost. And that internally gives you a heart attack.
Fair enough.
So what can you do? The population of Pakistan is extremely poor, and the only thing they can afford is corn oils and seed oils, and those things are terrible for you. And the problem is that the cultivation in the agriculture sector now is artificial. They put
not organic.
It's not organic, but also because a lot of pesticides have chemicals that are dangerous. They could kill you. They're fatal.
Yep.
And they could also affect the future of your child and his brain. The way the brain cells and the chemicals are released in your brains, it really has a deep impact on that.
Yep. So I was reading that you have a long-term goal to adopt a child from a foreign country.
Yes.
And provide life and future and education for the child in best capacity.
This current situation that's taking place in Gaza, it's something that every human being that has a bit of humility and empathy should come together and speak and voice their concerns, because this is a global problem. And this has been a long-term wish for me. And somehow it just so happened at the time that this whole Gaza episode is taking place, which has made me even more painstakingly convinced that I need to find and adopt a child that may have some sort of a disformity or a dysfunctional problem, like let's say autism or something, that I could help give that child a future. But then it requires a lot of education, and that's why I started doing my postgraduate in psychology and neuroscience, because I wanted to create a future for kids in Pakistan. But then this episode started to happen. And then I thought, okay, how is it that I can participate as a human being and as a woman, as a person who represents a large community? how can I contribute as an individual, as a person, and how can I benefit these people? And I know it's not easy, but at least I know that I have that aspiration, the thought that I can help a child have a better future, or at least help a bunch of children have better education. And it's made me so emotional, and it's kept me on edge. You know, I've had sleepless nights knowing that we're unable to do anything.
Yeah.
But we have to fight and find a way to do something.
Find a way to do something, and we have to give back to the society.
We have to give back to the society.
What we owe to the society.
We do.
Yeah.
And it's part of our Muslim Ummah. And if we can't come together, then everything is going to collapse. This is a calamity for us. This is a wake-up call for human beings.
In general, yes,
and the youth,
absolutely.
that you guys need to raise your voice. You need to come out and come, you know, above and beyond your personal desires and aspirations. You have to be selfless in general. Yeah. And the problem is that the youth nowadays is only and only concerned about themselves and the growth of their own internal problems, and, you know, whatever it is that they have created as a set goal.
Yeah, so I would rather not generalize it, but yes, I would say there are individuals like that, but then we have people like you also.
Exactly, but that's what I mean, that there's plenty of people in the world that are empathetic,
yes,
and that have that will and that desire, yes, and the passion to care.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we can have a hand-picked group of individuals like those, and I could create a system with them eventually once I've finished my master's, and if I don't do my PhD, if I do my PhD, then I'd become a doctor.
Yes.
And that's a very difficult thing to do, because at this age it's hard to retain information, and especially a subject of psychology and neuroscience. It's extremely complex, and I'm doing it from one of the most prestigious universities in the world, from King's.
So that's on your radar, huh? You still want to pursue it?
I'm still doing. I'm in the middle of my master's degree.
Okay, awesome.
But it just requires a lot of time, patience, and execution. And I have also pulled myself away from the social society and norms and, you know, social lifestyle that I used to have maybe 10 odd years ago. I'm not the person I used to be, and that's what I'm very, very thankful for. I'm thankful for.
You've transformed.
I've transformed.
In a better way.
I'm an extroverted introvert. I like to stay, I'm happy and content in my own company. I like to read, like to study, and I'm very sort of strong and assertive with my opinion. So if something doesn't serve me or my environment or my well-being, I remove myself from it immediately.
Yeah, and that's very well said, and I always say that contentment is an art.
Absolutely.
Which, if you can master, will put you in the highest place.
If you can master being alone, in any mental or physical capacity, you've mastered it all.
You've mastered it all.
And Allah is always around.
Absolutely. So, you volunteered at the Olympics for special children also?
In Pakistan, many eons ago. And I also used to go to Umid Noor, which was great. That was an eye-opener for me.
Okay, and how was the experience there? Any memories from?
Yes, spending time with children that were endangeredly, like the child was 12 years old, but her body was compressed and was the size of a 2-year-old child. And that made me realize how grateful we need to be and how thankful we need to be for every single limb, ligament, and tissue and nerve in our body. Every cellular system in our body, we need to be so grateful that Allah has made us so complex.
And we take it for granted.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm not a very religious person, but I'm content because God has given us this entity, this physical being. So if we take our own selves for granted and our brains for granted and everything around us, then what's the purpose of us living on this planet?
Absolutely.
And I also, I'm sorry to cut you, I also recycle, drive an electronic car. I'm trying to contribute to the environment to whatever best capacity
Green
I can.
world. Yeah.
Trying.
Okay, that's absolutely correct. Tell me one thing, this difference, are you still doing horse riding? Swimming and all those
To be honest,
sports?
I have a piriformis syndrome injury, which entails a lot of recovery methods that I need to get involved in, physiotherapy and things like that.
Okay.
I feel like I have some form of a fear instilled in me that if I start horse riding, I will enjoy it. But then if I trigger that injury, it might persist.
It might persist. So why I wanted to ask this question was that, is there any, you're doing multiple sports, swimming, horse riding, bodybuilding?
I used to.
You used to. So is there any conflict in sport, like when you're doing bodybuilding?
Right.
I'm sure you have to focus on bodybuilding. Are there any sports or any physical activities which you are restrained from, or you should not be doing, like running or jogging or walk and all? Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so when I started bodybuilding, I was only strictly doing bodybuilding.
Okay.
I was coaching online, and also like I stopped doing personal training. I was only doing bodybuilding. When I was swimming, I was teaching kids swimming. So I had a lot of students who had drowned, and I helped them get out of that fear factor of drowning.
Okay, okay.
Horse riding was just a passion. It was a sport that I acquired, and it's something that I was doing over, when I was a young teenager and when I was a kid.
Okay, okay.
Swimming was something that I did just because I was
Naturally.
encouraged to do it, and I was good at it. And then I took courses and I studied about it, and then I taught individuals, adults as well as children in Dubai. And then I got more focused towards bodybuilding, competitively and otherwise.
And you stuck to it then?
Now that I'm about to touch my 40th year, I want to focus more on longevity and fitness, something hybrid that would just help me alleviate the pains and aches that I'm having, that have obviously are a conclusion of all the years of training and exercising.
And give sustainability to your
Exactly.
sport.
So I just want to take it easy and we're going to be launching an app that's going to have everything structured, so all the nutrition aspects, the training videos and workout and stuff and advice that people need. And it's going to be all electronically generated. It's going to be personalized because not one plan fits all, but it's going to have a structured plan that people can get involved and sign up for.
Okay, great.
Simultaneously, I'll set up a school at some point once I'm done with my master's. And bodybuilding is something that I'm going to have to leave behind. I will only do it a couple of days in a week.
Okay.
The rest of the days I do functional, mobility, and any kind of training that involves activity on its own. No running, because I'm not really a fan. Never have been, never will. I like to walk. I like to the reason why I walk is because I want to connect with nature. I disengage and disconnect with my telephone and people and anything that's superficial, and I just want to do earthing. Earthing is extremely essential for our core being and for our circadian rhythm. First thing in the morning you wake up, you should go out in the sunlight, even if it's for a couple of minutes, to get your circadian level and rhythm coincide with the rest of the day. That's like the natural human clock.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about bodybuilding and fitness that you've come across? People must be asking you all the time.
Bulking and cutting. These are things that are pertaining to professional bodybuilders, not regular people.
Okay.
The myths are that women will get bigger, bulkier, and that's owing to the food that they have. So the more you eat, the heavier you lift, the bigger you will be. But if you just restrain yourself and do resistance training, you don't have to carry very heavy weights unless you want to do professional bodybuilding and pertaining to a specific category in the sport. You can just stick to resistance training and carry a moderate to heavy weight, and then you can just pick out average weight and just progress. You progressively overload, but you have to keep a check and balance with your food. Nutrition is the most important aspect of training in any field, and in sports in particular. Bodybuilding is obviously aesthetically associated, so nutrition plays a huge key role.
Great, great. Zaiena, it's been lovely talking to you, and before we sign off, I would like you to give out give a shout out or a message to all those young girls, young athletes, women who are watching your program right now, and all the audience who's watching this program.
Well, my message to the youth of the world and Pakistan would be, let go of your emotions. Don't be afraid to speak your heart. And if you're passionate about something, chase after it until you've achieved it. Don't be afraid of the choices that you make, because ultimately those are your choices. And you are responsible for your future and the person that you are, not the people around you. Your parents have fulfilled their responsibility educating you, bringing you up, teaching you the right and the wrong. It's up to you as an individual, as an adult, to figure out what is it that you want. So never be afraid. Always be confident, stand up, be tall, and speak your mind and speak your heart, and be honest, be caring. And if something doesn't make you feel good, remove yourself from that situation immediately. Don't stick to that situation just because you have to succumb to society or the norms of society or your social circle. If something doesn't work for you and doesn't feel right, get away immediately. and work on yourself to be a better person.
Very well said, Zaiena. So remove negativity from your life, focus on a cause, work towards it. Nothing is impossible, everything is attainable if you put your mind to it, and never have any regrets. Whatever you do, own it, and feel proud about it. Yeah?
Yeah, and also, and be humble. The problem is that we lack humility. I feel personally that if people remove this ideology from their mind and stop being superficial, and the person that I used to be a couple of years ago, I was so concerned about the kind of car I was sitting in, the kind of handbags I was carrying, and now I walk out with a grocery bag that doesn't even cost 5 dirhams and a pair of chappals from Pakistan, and I'm so happy about it. Yeah. My friends want me to come and socialize with them and hang out with them at social gatherings and parties and things like that. But at this time, with whatever is happening in the world, this is the time to really focus your energy system on praying, connecting with humanity and humility, and also with God, and asking Him for forgiveness and asking Him to show you the right path and to help others.
Focusing on a cause, and obviously being yourself. That counts.
Yeah, and also restraining from having too much green tea with honey after biryani and bhaje ke pie.
All right. Thank you so much, Zaiena. It was a pleasure talking to you.
It was such an honor to be on your show.
And I'm sure the audience would have enjoyed your conversation as much as I did. It was really a pleasure. And we wish you all the best. And we wish you you continue with your winning streak, bringing more laurels for Pakistan. That was Zaiena Haider. Inshallah Ta'ala, I will see you in another episode of Sky is the Limit with a brand new guest. Till then,